No to mandatory mask for students.
President Biden speaks publicly on Afghanistan this afternoon. I'm Natalie Brand with the questions facing the administration as it struggles to keep up with the evacuations from Kabul.
Also, flight attendants train in self-defense to deal with a rise in unruly passengers.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
The East Newton R6 School District is the latest to decide against a campus-wide mask mandate. This is KOAM News at noon. I'm Tanya Bach. Typing our first 7 minutes, the latest district decision that's becoming a point of contention for many 4-state families. Last night, the East Newton Board of Education decided it will not require masks for this school year. However, masks will be required on school buses. The school superintendent says the plan is not entirely set in stone.
We'll make sure that we're monitoring students as they come in like we had in the past. And if we have a spike or we have anything that happens to increase our numbers, we'll reassess and make different decisions if that's necessary.
The superintendent says East Newton will also not require vaccinations. Well, students and parents opposed to a mask mandate in the Fort Scott School District protested outside the USD 234 Board of Education office yesterday. Currently, Fort Scott students and staff must wear face masks while in school buildings and school vehicles. Well, the summer heat returns in full force this weekend. Michael Hayslip joins us with the first look.
I tell you what, Tanya, that's evident even with mostly cloudy skies, the fact that we're sitting in the mid-80s. We haven't had a whole bunch of sunshine. Live look outside of Television City right there as the Skywatch storm tracker has at least calmed down on the eastern portion, but now we're picking up some afternoon rain on the far southwestern portion of southeast Kansas. As far as our lightning strikes go, they've been relatively limited. We see one popping up right there on the state line, and this will move from the west off to the east as the cloud cover pretty much shrouds the 4 states. But even with that being said, temperatures anywhere from low to mid 80s. We see actually some 85s where it is raining right now in Independence and Neodesha, 84 in Carthage and Lamar. Let's roll 86 in both Anderson and in Miami. Heat advisories lasting all the way until tonight, and don't be surprised if they are not expanded by by the time we head into the weekend. Skywatch storm tracker going to force all the severe weather and thunderstorms really up to the north as far as the continental United States go. We just can't escape the heat. We're going to be into the low 90s later on this afternoon. So it'll feel about like, say 94, 95 here as far as our heat index goes. Down to the south, you may get heat index readings close to 100 degrees. That's because that's where the majority of our humidity is going to remain. Now, as we push into tonight, we've got a good line of thunderstorm activity that originates to the northwest, rolls through for early Saturday morning, but then should be out of here by late morning. So if you got afternoon plans, just plan on finding a way to stay cool because we're going to be up in the low to mid 90s all the way through the weekend.
Oh, if you like heat and humidity?
Like I said, down to the south.
I would say move to Florida.
The humidity is already just hanging down there.
All right, thanks, Michael. Well, the Pentagon says the U.S. has evacuated approximately 5,700 people out of Afghanistan in the last 24 hours. However, flights are temporarily on hold because the processing facilities in Qatar are overwhelmed. Natalie Brand has more details on the evacuation efforts.
President Biden is meeting with his national security team this morning before delivering remarks on Afghanistan this afternoon.
Still a perilous environment, and all I can tell you is that we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that we can protect our force, protect the people that we're trying to move on to the airport, and protect their movement out of Kabul.
Tens of thousands of desperate Afghans are waiting to get out of the country. The scene outside the airport remains chaotic. CBS News has learned flights out of Kabul have been temporarily paused as the administration works to open a new processing facility in Bahrain. The facility in Qatar is now at capacity.
We're sending additional consular officers to both Qatar and Kuwait to help with this processing.
Among those showing up in Qatar are unaccompanied minors. This video from earlier in the week shows a man handing a baby over a wall to U.S. forces manning the airport. Critics say the Biden administration should have been better prepared to evacuate Americans and Afghan allies when it announced the withdrawal of U.S. forces. The Wall Street Journal published a State Department memo from July 13th in which diplomats warned the Afghan government could collapse after the U.S. troop withdrawal, and they urged the department to start pulling Americans out of the country before the troops were gone.
If we leave any Americans behind, if we leave thousands of those Afghans who fought along our side behind bravely, Joe Biden deserves to be impeached.
Members of Congress are getting an unclassified briefing on Afghanistan today. Lawmakers say they will hold hearings looking into what went wrong. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, the White House.
House lawmakers are expected to receive a classified briefing when they return to Capitol Hill next week. That's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at noon. As Americans return to the friendly skies, the TSA implements self-defense training to protect workers from not-so-friendly passengers. And later, we're making a chunky cinnamon applesauce in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. Flight attendants show renewed interest in learning self-defense. The FAA reports there have been so many incidents on airplanes this year that it's levied a total of more than $1 million of fines on dozens of unruly passengers. We've never seen that before in commercial aviation. As Errol Barnett reports, that's led to more airline employees to enroll in special training.
Boom, boom. It is no wonder why federal marshals are guiding flight crew on how to hit back.
It's getting crazy out there lately.
Sit down and remain calm. This year it's truly been chaos in the cabin. Fists flying on this American Airlines plane this month. A Southwest flight attendant knocked bloody by a passenger in May. And people being restrained to their seats, including this man on Frontier Airlines. After being accused of groping two of the flight crew, he was wrapped with tape all the way up to his mouth.
This man got the right dentist, that's all I'm gonna say.
He was eventually charged with battery.
I would hire all three of those ladies to be federal air marshals today if they were interested. That's how much I think they're seriously taking the class.
Stephanie Metzger manages the Air Marshal's New York field office and says this post-9/11 program had been on hiatus during the pandemic. Last month, it returned with a renewed sense of urgency.
We've had great demand since we reintroduced the classes.
The FAA announced Thursday that with more than $500,000 in new fines to dozens of unruly passengers, it has exceeded $1 million in financial punishments for the year. The largest, a $45,000 fine for a JetBlue passenger who allegedly threw his luggage, got on the floor, and put his head up a flight attendant's skirt. The president of the Flight Attendants Union continues to push for jail time.
What we need to do is we need to have the DOJ also criminally prosecuting and using the penalties that are there under the law already, up to 20 years in prison for any one of these incidents.
The palm strike is certainly something that we're taught during basic training. I mean, we're also taught the elbow one.
In almost a decade on the flight deck, Judith, who declined to provide her last name, says she's never had to get physical with a passenger, but says if she has to, now she's ready.
I don't know what that's called, but like you grab their hand and then you can roll them onto the ground. I thought that was really useful. It was really surprisingly fun.
Disagreements over masks make up the bulk of the almost 4,000 unruly incidents reported so far this year, with the FAA finding alcohol played a role in almost a quarter of those disputes. And that's why airlines like Southwest and American have suspended alcohol sales, with American announcing it won't resume that service until mid-January. Errol Barnett, CBS News at Reagan National Airport.
Still to come on the KOAM News at noon, Mr. Food.
Do you know apples aid in our digestion? We're taking on America's first orbit around the moon and are a favorite of all ages. Wait till you see what we do with them next.
But first, Michael Hayslip returns with your complete forecast.
Started off our Friday morning with thunderstorm activity out on the east and southwest Missouri. We're going to begin the noon show with thunderstorm activity out in the west of southeast Kansas. Here's where it's rolled in from. Really right along the Oklahoma-Kansas state line is where we're seeing the hardest rain working its way into Montgomery County there, right over Coffeyville. We've seen limited lightning strikes with this. Not a whole lot of action with it, but at the same point in time, that is some very hard rain that's coming down as well. And now we're really picking up lightning on the lightning tracker. I tell you what, that's just in the past 5 minutes. So as the afternoon instability grows, that is the result of the thunder and the lightning that's rolling through. And then as we look at the rest of the 4 states here, heavy cloud cover as well, almost overcast skies. When we talk about the rain that we've seen just in the past 48 hours alone, this is where it was raining the hardest throughout the course of our morning, right along I-49 there in between Lamar and Carthage. And that reading in the yellow, that's almost 3 inches of rain dating back to last night and then through this morning as well. Also, we had some thunder and lightning over 7th and Range Line, but now we actually have some blue sky that's showing up. We sit at 84 degrees, feeling like 92 already, and that is a result not so much as the wind, although obviously with it coming in from the south-southwest, it does play a contributing factor, but it's mainly the humidity that we're going to have to deal with. Kind of reset right here and take a look at what's down to the south and out to the west, where it's looking pretty clear. It's going to be one of those today where it almost pop up over us, generate over the 4 states, and that's how we'll get our afternoon scattered showers. As far as what we're seeing temperature-wise, anywhere from say about 82 to 87 is where we're at, but once again, when we talk about what it feels like already, not too shabby when we talk about heat index readings that are up close to 100 degrees out in portions where it is raining. That would include Independence at 97, Neodesha at 96, and I'm feeling like we're 95 right now in Webb City. And so, of course, we've got our heat advisories for counties in orange. And even if your county's not in orange, know that it's going to be abnormally hot, especially by the time we conclude the weekend and get into next week. Give you an idea of what we've got nationally speaking. The trough of the jet stream right there, where it just kind of bottoms out. That'll kind of hold that thunderstorm activity, and that's why everything will be in the upper plains, way to the far north of us as far as the severe thunderstorm risk goes. It really goes from about northeastern Kansas all the way up to the Canadian border. As far as what we're seeing tropic-wise, Henri, now a tropical storm, but expected to become a Category 1 hurricane. Look at that U-turn. Now that it's completed its U-turn, it's going to make for the northeastern coast. And that is why when we talk about United States watches and warnings already in effect for portions of New York, all the way through Boston right there, they're in a hurricane watch. This lasts all the way until Monday. And then down in the Pacific, we've got Hurricane Grace, no longer a tropical storm, now a hurricane. Could get all the way up to a Category 2. It's Cat 1 right now, but could be a 2 by the time it makes landfall, where flooding will be a major concern for central Mexico. Here in the 4 states, going to play high 80s, low 90s, and then we get ready for some overnight action. It'll work on that band out to our northwest. Look at that thing form. Now, really, it won't be on us until after sunset. It'll be an overnight affair, but as it rolls through, that's some additional heavy rainfall that we're talking about. Probably easily going to get over an inch right there as it rolls through. Now, if you got Saturday plans, though, well, that's not too bad because late morning, we're going to clear off and really kind of calm down for the most part until we get in to early Sunday morning. You know, sometimes on the backside of a front like that, we get some cooler temperatures. This will be the exact opposite. Our temperatures will increase into the mid-90s for next week.
Yep, well, it's going to be hot.
That heat advisory is going to be a whole lot more widespread by the time we see everybody on the morning show.
I'm hoping that by next weekend, temperatures will just keep going down.
Stair step down?
Yeah, that'd be nice. Back into the 80s.
See what I can do.
Okay. Just don't show me something I don't want to see. All right, thanks, Michael. We take this time to honor today's 4-state hero, Corporal Donald Booth in the U.S. Marine Corps. The Erie, Kansas native joined the anti-aircraft artillery unit in 1954. He earned the expert rifle, marksman, and sharpshooter medals, along with the Good Conduct Medal. Corporal Donald Booth, we thank you, our 4-state hero. It's a snack and it's a side. Today we're making the perfect go-along with anything from pork chops to pancakes. Howard shows us how to make his chunky cinnamon applesauce in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
The dish we're making today was taken on an orbit around the moon, aids in our digestion, and is a favorite of all ages. So let me show you how to whip up an easy homemade applesauce that you can enjoy without ever leaving the atmosphere. We start by peeling, coring, and chunking up about 8 apples. As far as the kind of apples to use, I suggest picking up an assortment. That way, your applesauce will have a great depth of flavor. These go into a pot over medium heat, along with some apple juice or cider, a bit of brown sugar, and a stick of cinnamon. After it comes to a boil, lower the heat, cover it, and let it simmer. Make sure you stir it occasionally so everything cooks evenly. As for how long to cook it, well, that depends on how chunky or smooth you like it. Personally, I love chunky applesauce. Once it's done, you can use your homemade applesauce to dress up everything from pork chops to potato pancakes. Or you can eat it as is, which is my favorite. To get this budget-friendly recipe, all you have to do is check out our website and look for Chunky Cinnamon Applesauce. I'm Howard with Kelly in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a cinnamon-kissed way for you to say, ooh, it's so good. Delicious.
Cinnamon kissed. Interesting. You can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Now here's a look at our 4 state market prices.
A look at the rain that has now formed over southeast Kansas and northeast Oklahoma. Got some lightning in there, and it's coming down pretty good as it'll work its way through Montgomery County and then proceed from west to east. Still a hot one, going to make it up into the 90s, feel like high 90s, and just getting hotter for a humid, muggy weekend. Remember again, thunderstorms coming tonight.
All right, be prepared. Well, coming up tonight at 5, is your food not tasty enough or maybe not surprising enough? Never mind the salt, add a few bongs or whizzes. That's the idea behind Sonic Seasoning. It's a tableware collection that enhances the flavor of food with sound feedback as you eat. We're going to check this out. Plus, Freeman hospital officials discuss additional availability of vaccines for immune-compromised individuals. And a Delaware County woman is sentenced for her role in recording a woman's death after injecting her with drugs. Join us for those stories and much more tonight on the KOAM News at 5.
I want to thank you all for joining here on the KOAM News at Noon. Tanya and I will see you again Monday morning.
And the rest of the team will see you right back here at 5 o'clock.